Okay, let's dive right into this, because today we are unpacking a number that carries a massive, almost mythological amount of psychological weight in Ireland, and that number is 100,000 euros. We're going to explore the 100K myth, and we're really digging deep into this incredibly frustrating divide between our financial expectations and the actual everyday reality for the average Irish family right now.
100 grand a year. Just think about what that figure meant not too long ago. Say, exactly 10 years ago. Back in 2016, earning that specific amount meant something huge to the average Irish family. It meant you had definitively made it. It guaranteed immense prestige, comfort, luxury, and most importantly, it meant ultimate financial security. You were probably running 2 cars, taking proper summer holidays, and you were still building up this robust savings account without really breaking a sweat. You had serious, undeniable purchasing power.
But fast forward to today, and more average families earning that exact same 6-figure salary are quietly asking themselves a question that honestly would have sounded completely ridiculous a decade ago. Why doesn't this feel like enough? Listen, if you're feeling that underlying financial anxiety, you are absolutely not alone. It's a really uncomfortable question for anyone earning what we all consider a high salary, but it is one we definitely need to answer by stepping back and looking objectively at the hard data.
The starkest change we're dealing with here is the total collapse in purchasing power for the average family. 10 years ago, 100 grand brought you comfort, luxury, and unquestionable security. It was the golden ticket. Today, that exact same salary brings daily friction, surprisingly tight budgets, and merely basic stability. There is this profound psychological disconnect between what society tells you 100K should buy and the highly restricted, squeezed reality of today's economy.
To truly understand why this is happening, we have to pivot to the cold, hard math. Because, as we all know, 100,000 euros is not actually 100,000 euros in your bank account. Here in Ireland, we have to look closely at your net pay. Once you deduct income tax, the universal social charge, and your PRSI, your actual take-home pay drops significantly. Out of that incredibly impressive gross salary, you are literally left with roughly 60 to 65,000 euros net per year.
Let's break that down even further to mentally map out a standard family budget. We have to look at the monthly figure. At the absolute top end of that estimate, you are bringing home a maximum of about 5,400 euros a month. Now, on paper, that is still a very strong number, but just wait until we start applying today's modern living costs to it.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where every single cent of that cash actually goes for an average Irish family with kids. If you are renting in or anywhere around Dublin, housing easily takes 2,500 euros right off the top. Then add childcare. Creche fees in Ireland are basically a second mortgage, routinely running 1,500 euros a month. So what's left? Just 1,400 euros for your basic living. That has to cover food, utilities, transport, insurance, and your phone bills. Almost the entire 5,400 euros is instantly devoured just to keep the lights on and the kids looked after.
The breathing room simply disappears. Now, let's be completely clear here. A family pulling in this kind of money isn't struggling to survive, but they certainly aren't thriving the way someone on this exact same income did 10 years ago. That lack of leftover money at the end of the month completely destroys their ability to save aggressively, to plan for the future, or to feel genuinely secure. That comfortable margin for error we used to associate with 100 grand, it's entirely gone.
This financial squeeze becomes glaringly obvious when we look at the housing market. Let's walk through the strict Irish mortgage rules step by step to expose the distinct hurdle high earners face today. Step 1, your income is 100K. Step 2, the mortgage rules typically cap your borrowing at 4 times your income. Step 3, that gives you a maximum loan of 400,000 euros. Step 4, let's assume you've somehow managed to scrape together a 50,000 euro deposit. That brings us to Step 5, where your total buying power is strictly capped at 450,000 euro.
Now, a few years ago, that sounded like a massive amount of money. But today, 450,000 doesn't go very far at all in the Dublin market, or honestly, even in many of the commuter areas. This seemingly high buying power falls drastically short because you aren't just out there competing with other single high earners anymore. You're going head-to-head against dual-income households, massive corporate investors, and cash buyers for an incredibly limited supply of family homes.
So, we've looked at the personal monthly math, and we've seen the distinct housing hurdles. But the really big question remains, so why have costs jumped so radically? To understand this, we have to zoom out from your everyday household budget and look at the larger macroeconomic forces. These are the underlying pressures that are squeezing families and completely reshaping what it costs to just live a normal life in Ireland today.
So, the crucial point is that a perfect storm of macro factors has driven this entirely new reality. Costs haven't just risen with normal, gentle inflation, they've aggressively jumped. Global instability, like the severe tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical global shipping choke point, have consistently pushed up energy, fuel, and food costs worldwide. Locally, severe housing supply shortages mean way fewer homes for way more people. And when you combine that with Ireland's incredibly strong multinational corporate sector, which brings in high-paying jobs and immense demand, the entire overall cost structure around you gets pushed radically higher.
And there's another hidden factor we really need to look at, and that's the marginal tax rate. This is the higher tax rate applied to any extra income you earn. In Ireland's tax trap, getting a big promotion from an €80,000 salary to a €100,000 salary doesn't actually feel like a €20,000 jump in your pocket. Because of exactly how our tax brackets work, a huge portion of that extra $20K is taxed at the absolute highest rate. This severely reduces the actual, tangible benefit of your hard-earned raise.
Which brings us to a really fundamental shift in how the economy operates for the average worker today. The old rule, the one we all grew up with and believed in, was simple: earn more, afford more. But the new reality we are looking at right now is completely different. Higher salaries in a constrained market don't actually increase your purchasing power. They just increase overall market competition. The new rule is surprisingly simple: earn more, compete harder.
And this leads to a profound psychological shift. It's beautifully summarized by this quote from our source material. It's about a number that used to mean security, now meaning something closer to stability. I mean, that perfectly captures why people feel so incredibly frustrated right now. The very definition of a good salary has fundamentally shifted underneath our feet. People don't necessarily even want more. They just need more to achieve the exact same standard of living that the average family absolutely expected $100,000 to buy them just 10 short years ago.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final provocative thought. If a six-figure salary is no longer the automatic golden ticket to a life of luxury and endless savings, what does financial security actually look like to you now? How do your own personal financial expectations need to adapt to survive this new economic reality? It's a really challenging question to ask yourself, but understanding the real math behind the myth is the crucial first step to answering it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.